Hello, everybody. James here, and I'm with my good pal Joey Mercury. A bit of a special, a bit of a departure. Sorry, you waved, and I'll switch the camera. You can give us a wave. All right. Hello. So we thought we'd do something a bit different because Joey's going to be coming on probably maybe as a semi-regular guest. We'll see how this one goes and see how the next one goes. And to be honest, we'll probably do a lot more, I think, in the future. And we're going to muddle around with the formula. Normally, I ask questions about their career from beginning to end. But this time we thought because WrestleMania 38 was coming up, why not review it in depth with a former WWE producer who's worked with Vince McMahon closely for, what, like 3-4 years, was it?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah. So, who better to ask? He's produced some of the most famous segments, some of the most famous matches in WrestleMania history. So who better to review WrestleMania 38 both nights than Joey Mercury himself?
We can start slow and then taper off.
As I have done throughout my podcasting / YouTubing career, I start bad, I taper off, and we sort of and it peters out at the end.
Yeah, hold on. Like, our podcast is going to be it won't be interesting, but at least it'll be lengthy.
Sort of like WrestleMania 38.
A little bit, James. And that will bring us to our first contest.
Come on, what a pro that was for a transition. Lengthy,
I think so.
And tedious.
Yeah.
So go on then. We watched it, not together, but we did watch it. Overall thoughts of WrestleMania 38, and then we'll sort of move on through.
It was a lot to process for me. A lot of times, as far as I can only speak from being a producer or being a talent. When I get, something thrown at me like, this is the segment. Okay, well, I need to find out where we're going, right? So I need the destination, I need the finish. And because I don't just leave the house and drive around and hope I wind up somewhere. I have a destination. Now there's different ways to get there too. You can take a scenic route, you can go where there's tolls, you can go where there's highway, you can go where any route you want to get to is what works best. And so you get the finish and then you find out okay, well, what time do we need to be there? And then you want to try to find out what's the business of the match? Basically, what are we trying to accomplish here? What's the takeaway? Where are these two talents or a group of talents as they go in to what we're doing, and where are they coming out of it? Where are they going? And really, what are we going to give the people as far as information to process? And then we need to make it palatable and interesting and entertaining and really easy to understand. So having said that, there's a lot to process. There's just a lot of information. And so I kind of look for the takeaways, and I don't know what they are. I also look for different things basically, here's something Vince, I've learned much from Vince McMahon. And one of Vince's sayings is first day on the job. And a lot of times Vince will say something and you just hear and go, okay, that has deeper meaning. I need to figure it out, because you wouldn't always get the explanation right then and there. You'd have to learn. Mm-hmm. It's not something he would teach you necessarily. And so one of those is first day on the job. That's kind of like a double meaning. If I show up to work my first day on the job, I'm probably going to be dressed to impress, right? I'm probably going to listen. I'm probably going to meet people. I'm probably going to be on my best behavior, right? And that's not meant that I'm going to misbehave otherwise. It's just I want to be sharp. I want to be on time. I want to be all that. Now, there's a double meaning to that. It's because if I'm tuning in as a first-time viewer, it's my first day on the job here, what am I watching? And this comes into play because there's no VTR before this opening contest. And the VTR, videotape recorder, the video package that goes before the match, the kind of the build-up. And there is none for this opening contest. And a lot of times that helps the viewer at home, especially if they're first time, to see like, okay, what's the story of the match? And not only do you need to know the business of the match, you need to know the story. Without the benefit of a VTR, the first thing I'm seeing is Rick Boogs. And I've never seen Rick Boogs before, I don't know what I'm looking at. Is this guy one of the wrestlers in the match? I mean, I've seen the billboard for the match, the ID card, so I know kind of who's in the match. This guy's playing guitar. And then out comes Shinsuke Nakamura. And for the life of me, since I started seeing Shinsuke Nakamura around WWE, I don't understand what he is. Like, I don't know what I'm looking at. I know he's got charisma because I look at him and I want to keep looking at him, kind of figure it out. After a while, after a few years with no further information, I don't want to look at it anymore because I don't know what he is. Is he like epileptic? And like sometimes like during the matches, like he sells more during his entrance than he does during his match. So like I saw him like do his entrance and he takes this big bump where he's like folded up on his legs and he's on his back, like at a high point of the song. Which is nice for him, by the way, because it doesn't seem like that song gets old to him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There's this phenomenal reaction to the music every time he hears it. That's nice, right? Yeah, he doesn't get bored with it. It's nice. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he falls flat, but then he'll take a bump in a match and sell it, and it's not even as impressive as the bumps he was taking during his entrance. I don't get it. What do you make of Shinsuke Nakamura?
I've seen one Wrestle Kingdom years ago because I thought it had some giant build to it. So I thought, well, I might as well watch it. And he was on it, and everyone was saying that he was the star of the show. And I disagreed. I thought AJ Styles was the star of the show. So this was like 2014 or 2015, whenever it was. 2016, who knows? The answer is I'm not quite sure. I don't know what his gimmick is, other than he does, as you say, sort of flop around and has... kicks a lot. And as far as Rick Boogs goes, I've never seen Rick Boogs before, and I was thinking, Man Mountain Rock meets Dan Severn.
Wow. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. That was basically all I thought, and then Rick Boogs tries to lift both Usos and falls apart completely. He ends up, I've written it down here, he gets a... torn quad and a torn patella tendon for that one sort of like double Simone drop thingy, and then his knee goes, and then terrible news.
Yeah, one thing I noticed about this match, they went to the floor. That's just a side note. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I saw, I guess his knee gave out, and then they kind of had to get to the finish, how they had to get to it. And I thought it was the proper finish. I don't know if it would have differentiated anyway if Boogs didn't get hurt, other than the amount of bumps they were taking and minutes they put in. And I don't know why this match started the show either.
No, I don't know either, because it was the bad guys winning, and... I just don't know. It was the bad guys winning. I generally thought for a big show, you want to, start it off on a high. Or, what match would you have had to kick things off?
Seeing the choices, I think I understand a little bit. However, there's a way to build a show the same way you build a match. In other words, you want to do your best shit last. So you have your main event last, you do your biggest finish, your biggest moments of the match last. And your second best stuff should come first. That's why the first match is the second most important, because it kind of sets the pace for the night. Now, I know this is WrestleMania, so it might be a different circumstance, but I always shied away from, like when I was a road agent with WWE, placing, or anywhere I was running shows, like the placement on the card of certain matches and build. So this would be a topic of, let's say you're in a town for a live event and you have 7 matches. Usually I would go with, interval after 4. And so your most important match would be your main event. Your second most important match would be match number 1. Your third most important match would be match number 4, because it's the one going into the break in the first half main. The fourth most important match would be a match coming out of break, because it's the first match of the second half of your show. Mm-hmm. Right. So then the first match, I was really inclined to have somebody like, at the time, R-Truth, Ronnie Killens, or somebody like that, who the crowd knows and they love and they can interact with and they're happy to see, right? And Ronnie's happy to be seen. And he can go out there, and I'd send him out first because the crowd doesn't need preconditioning. They don't need a heel to go out there and get them all riled up so that they'll cheer R-Truth coming out. They're going to cheer R-Truth when they hear the "What's Up." And he's going to sing all the way to the ring and do his thing, at least when I was there. I don't know what he's doing now. And have a heel come out, and then you just have just set the pace for the whole night. Have a match, keep it all in the ring, don't do any near falls, and have a babyface finish with no comeback. And here's the reason. If you do that, then they haven't seen anybody go to the floor yet. People. They haven't seen a comeback yet. So you save that for the rest of the night, because they don't need to, because there hasn't been any heat yet. So if there's just a move out of the corner schoolboy after a little hope spot, 1, 2, 3, and right out of the heat, and you get the baby face out of there and the heel's up and he's mad, you get a baby face finish first, start the night hot. Then in later matches, you use that schoolboy as a near fall because they've seen it already. So now they'll buy it as a finish. Right. And so you save all that for later matches. Having a tag match first goes against kind of like what that philosophy, because almost guarantee, and the first tag match I would have of the night usually wouldn't have a comeback either. It could have the baby faces going over straight out of the heat. There doesn't need to be a comeback all the time with the baby faces going over, right? So like I think a lot of these matches have the pressure that they might put on themselves of, this is our WrestleMania moment opportunity. This is our WrestleMania match. So we're going to kick out of everybody's finish. We're going to have near falls galore. We're going to do things that probably just the main event and other matches that people pay to see should do. Mm-hmm. Instead of trying to do something different and get over and get noticed and get remembered, we're going to do stunts and we're going to do things, physicality that people can't relate to, instead of making them laugh, making them cry, making them angry, making them happy, having them emotionally connect to them so they remember them when they go home. Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I would not put a tag match on first. But I know it's WrestleMania, so you kind of throw the logic book out the window sometimes.
Well, let me ask you this then. Why is it with WWE specifically, that, and you've said this, the second most important match is put in the starting match to set the tone, but boxing, UFC, maybe New Japan, I don't know, they always book matches in order of importance from least to most, and they have it very linear that way. Do you, maybe not with boxing or UFC or whatever, but do you agree with laying out a show that way instead?
Laying out which way?
Just having linear from least to most important match and just keeping it simple that way.
No, I don't, because you have the opportunity to control with creative how it goes, right? And so, yeah, you got the first couple preliminary matches and there's nobody in the stands, there's nobody in the seats, because they're still filing in because they know they're going to get to the semi-main and the main, and that's what they paid money to see. And by the time that certain clock runs around, the house will be full, the house lights go down. Okay, now here's the box office draws we came to see, right? Mm-hmm. Why? If we have an opportunity to get these people in the building at a certain time and get their wallets open, we need to pull them in the building and let them know that showing the show from the time that the doors open to the time that the curfew or the doors close or good night everybody happens, that's an opportunity to make money. And that's an opportunity to get your product over to make more money. So that's why I would, and also WWE has to do that, I think. They don't have to do anything, but I think they'd be wise to do that because it's, what's the word? It's fake, right? It's entertainment. So, yeah, boxing, UFC. If big money's involved, there's probably a little bit of work here, there, or elsewhere. But point being, the same reason why UFC talent cannot stand there and cut promos and push one guy like he's Roman Reigns and keep him champion for 581 days or however long it's been, because that guy has a button and you can get hit on the button and go out. Anybody can. And then you spent time promoting this. So what they have to do is promote the sport, right? So WWE being entertainment, there's no reason to swim upstream or put limitations on themselves or anything like that.
Yeah. I'll move on. Apart from, I will actually bring up Rick Boogs again, injury. When you were a producer, when you had the headset on in the back next to whoever it may have been, any specific times you remember the referee throwing up the Magic X sign to to basically say something's really gone wrong here? Are there any times when you were a producer in the back and you saw some horrific injury, the referee throws up the X, that stick out in your mind?
In San Antonio in 2015, there was a preliminary match, a dark match, before Raw, and Samoa Joe and TJ Will, the Tyson Kid. And it's the bump that ended TJ's career.
Yeah.
So Joe's done it a million times. His finisher, that muscle buster, the stack suplex. And then, that was scary. That was a little scary. Like just uncomfortable to watch because like you never want to see that.
Yeah. I haven't seen that on purpose because I've got the most weak stomach for this, like real injuries and stuff. Did the suplex look like every other suplex, or did something slip, or why did it go so wrong?
No, it was pretty routine. If anything, it might have been a little high and tight, but it wasn't. I mean, it's Samoa Joe and TJ Wilson. It's not going to be messed up. You know what I mean? It wasn't. I don't know if it was like just a wear and tear thing on TJ or if it was just a freak accident, 1 millimeter one way or another. But it was just, it didn't look out of the ordinary at first.
Yeah. That's probably why it looked even scarier than usual. I will move on then. Happy Corbin versus Drew McIntyre. Now, you did say you had an opinion on this match.
Yeah. I want to know your thoughts on this. I want to hear your thoughts.
I want to know who Happy Corbin's tailor is, so I don't accidentally go there, because I was thinking Waylon Mercy, but it's like is this like what Instagrammers wear? They're just like the really hateful ones.
I'm not sure. I'm really ignorant to like social media or like anything that's going on, so like I don't know why. I noticed that Drew McIntyre carries a sword to the ring.
Yes, that's named after his dead mother, I think.
He named his sword after his dead mother?
Yes.
As you do?
As you do.
Right. And so does he intend to use this sword during his contest?
Well, it looked like he did after the thingy, after the contest, and he chopped
No, but I'm
ropes.
talking about as he's going to the ring. He's got this sword.
Yes. I don't think he intends to use it other than for it to look shiny and interesting.
That's okay. So like a lot of what I'm going to do is like trying to be applying logic to illogical situations, and we'll just see how far we get. So that's why I mean, like, I'll ask you questions because I don't know. I don't know why they do the things they do. Have you seen anything more madcap than Moss?
That's an interesting question.
Right.
I think I've seen more madcap people than Madcap Moss, who seemed quite pedestrian for someone with that name. Although he looked great.
Oh, yeah, he looks great. Yeah, he does. He looks great. And he can talk. And, yeah, he's a good athlete. So I don't know about the madcap part. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I thought that, Baron Corbin, he's got that move, the end of days, and they told us that nobody's ever kicked out of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody kicked out of it. They lost, and that psychology kind of like thinking behind that doesn't make sense to me. It's like, if I'm Baron Corbin, I'm gonna lose at WrestleMania to McIntyre, and in the middle with his finish, right? And McIntyre's like up here, right? Because he's been champion, right? And Corbin hasn't been there, but Corbin's like top of the middle or bottom of the top, right?
Yeah, about that. I think that's fair to say.
And then what? Drew's like middle of the top?
I don't think he's so Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar are top of the top, and he's one mini half tier below them, it seems.
Okay, right on. So like he's more like AJ Styles level, something like that?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Okay, so like there's no shame in like putting Drew over with this finish, especially since it's fake and that's what your boss is telling you to do. But like out of like self-preservation a little bit, you can go for that end of days and then have Drew keep getting out of it. And then the announcers can bring up the point. What if he would have hit the end of days? Nobody ever kicked out of that, but we didn't get to see because he never had a chance to hit it. Right. And then you keep your finish safe, and then he can come out of this match and still nobody's ever kicked out of the end of days. And then you have possible stipulations later if the finish is over. It's been a good job protecting it until now, where you see matches where it's been like against Randy Orton, but the RKO is banned, right? Or John Cena, but you can't use the FU, you know what I mean? Things like that, or the attitude adjustment, right? So like, I think he just threw away his finish, basically. And then I thought it'd be like, I know the stunt with like the sword and like slashing the ring and the ropes. And what'd you think of that?
I was wondering how they did it, because I was thinking the sword surely can't be that sharp unless they just gave him a real sword this time to hack through. I think that was such a clever setup how they did it. I was trying to. Okay. I didn't want to rewatch the match to find out if they bounced back and forth off the ropes, in case that they gimmicked the ropes. But who knows? Maybe it's a genuine sword. Who knows?
Okay, so let me ask you this: what if it was a genuine sword? Now, what do you make of it?
I don't know. Maybe Madcap Moss should have got it and then threatened Drew with it. I don't know.
Are you wishing? Oh, he should obtain control of the sword.
Yeah, I think if we're going to go logic-wise, you've got a second man on the outside, and the other guy's got a weapon that's unattended. Maybe Madcap Moss should take control of the sword so he doesn't go crazy and chop people's heads off.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I would think. I think like Drew would face some like disciplinary recourse or something like that from management for like being the second match, destroying the ring at WrestleMania. It's like, we got other matches. There's people here. They drove, they flew. They're just out here cutting the ring up because Madcap Moss is disturbing you.
So basically, it's attempted murder.
It's attempted murder on Madcap Moss. That's you can start there. Number two, it's like it wasn't like self-defense. Like the guy was just being madcap. You know what I mean? And like, okay, it was WrestleMania, so he's probably like a little too madcap. And Drew had enough, but it doesn't give him the right. Like, Drew's a lousy shot. Like, you could have just reached, he's a tall man. You could have just reached a little bit more and made contact. He's horrible. He's no depth perception. Madcap Moss jumped off the ring and Drew still hit the ropes. And Drew wasn't even like, oh shit, sorry. Like, I ruined WrestleMania for everyone. It was just like, ah. And Drew does that a lot. Like, he's a hell of a talent because people like him and he's over and he's booked there and he makes money. But like, he just has a sword and then he just goes, ah, and yells. And I don't know what that is. That's the type of thing that'll keep you right at the middle of the top, I think.
Mm. Is that the kind of thing that Vince McMahon will tell you to do to the hard camera every single time to get over whatever that is?
Probably not. There's certain instructions Vince will give to different guys depending on what Vince wants, depending on what Vince ate earlier, depending on his mood or whatever. It's just like it can flip-flop. But he might say, yes, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. X, Y, you can never go wrong if you just do this, if you just do this, if you just do this, right? But like, you'll see a lot. Somebody goes over in a match and the referee will go over to him and say something to him as they hand him a title. And then the talent, like last night, or night one, at the end of night one, I'm sorry, Steve Austin was about to exit the ring. And then Rod Zapata, the referee, was standing in the aisle. And they hadn't gone off there yet. And they want to go off there with Steve in the ring drinking beer. So Steve stops, turns back around. So Vince is very, very big on seeing the faces, you know, of guys and in the moments and really milking that. Because when you see these video packages and these VTRs, there's a lot of that. It's like a movie trailer for these matches. And so you'll have the guys after their match, and you'll have Roman Reigns standing over Brock Lesnar and MSG with the title saying, acknowledge me, and then standing there for 15 seconds instead of just standing up, acknowledge me, and walking away, because they need all that footage, and that's how they tell their stories. So, yeah, when you're asking about Drew doing that, sure, because I think probably the action figure should come with a sword then, and Drew should have t-shirts with him going like that with a sword, because that's what they're seeing. And Vince is huge on like branding and marketing, and that's, you beat him over the head with it. You spoon feed them, so it's the easiest to understand for the lowest common denominator, so everybody gets it. And so if he's just doing that the whole time, I get it.
I always believe that the best wrestling characters you can describe in 3 words, like Ultimate Warrior, you could describe, or Hulk Hogan, or Steve Austin, or The Rock. You describe them and nail their character down to 3 words, and it might be a bit one-dimensional way of describing them, but But if their character is that clear that you can describe it in 3 words and get over their persona, then it's a success.
That's interesting. I think maybe if your vernacular is so situated, that might be an easy thing to do. I think there might be a easier filter for me is in this order: look, promo, work. If you have 1, you can probably get you a job. If you got 2, you can get you a push. If you got 3, you're drawing money, or you're ready to. So, and in that order. So, and if 1 is like way dominant to the others, it can trump it beyond logic. For example, look, Great Khali. Great Khali, no promo, no work. Look at him. You can't stop looking at him once you see him, right? And it's the same thing if, you know, most of, there's a thing about, you know, you go up to somebody and you give them more time and you give them more patience, probably if they're easier on the eyes or more attractive. Like, you go ahead and listen to what they have to say. Whereas if there's somebody who's absolutely repulsive, one might not go over there and ask them to begin with, right? Even though they might have the most brilliant shit you've ever heard, you won't find out. So that's why the look is important, because it's on TV. And then promo, how many guys have had, you know, bell-to-bell careers that are, but goddamn, man, the look and they can talk, right? And you can talk longer than you can work, just physicality-wise and on your body. So those two are really important. If you got all three, you're Roman Reigns. You're drawing money. You got the look, you got the promo, and you got the work. So that's an easier filter for me than kind of like being able to describe, because I've been able to describe really bad gimmicks in 3 words or less. It doesn't necessarily equate to success, I don't think. It might equate to well-defined role. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
talk about
when you talk about like you were talking about earlier, like, who was it? Max Payne, you said about something?
No, Man Mountain Rock, the
right.
guitar player.
Same.
Yeah.
So
oh
like,
yeah, Max Payne, of course, yeah.
Right. So you're talking about like look, work, and promo. Or you're talking about like in the 3 words, it's just like, yeah, he's a heavy metal guitar player. That's his gimmick. Tends to wrestle sometimes too. Van Hammer, like well-defined gimmicks, but I mean, success, maybe not.
Well, maybe not success-wise, but how would you describe Shinsuke Nakamora in 3 words?
I wouldn't.
Yeah, because it's not that well-defined what he's all about, other than that.
Yeah, and have you not realized, like, I'm not really that succinct? I need to talk a lot to express my opinion. So like, I don't know what I make of Shinsuke Nakamura. You know, I don't, but I know he's got probably no promo. He's got look to a degree, although I don't know. Sometimes it's like WWE, I don't know when they adopted this, maybe after I left, but like, if you go to the gym, like there's a fine, like you get fined and then suspended, I think, if you get caught like working on your look at all, or like being credible. I don't know, but maybe Nakamura got like hosed in that, or so he got screwed over. I don't know. So like his look and his promo were like, you know, it's okay. And then his work is like, I don't really get that either. But I don't need to, because there's like 70,000 people like singing along and like shaking and doing things like that. And Pat McAfee loves it. So like all those people can't be wrong. So like, just because it's not my cup of tea doesn't mean it's not good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to move on from Shinsuke. I'm going to move on from the match. Going to go to the next one. The Mysterios versus The Miz and Logan Paul. I could pick any number of different ways of asking you a question related to this match, but I'll ask it this way. Logan Paul was really good. Now, there was a couple of missed kicks or whatever, but he had great poise for his first ever match. He wasn't fazed by the crowd. I know he's fought in front of crowds and he's a celebrity. But that's sort of a compliment and not a compliment, in the sense that somebody who's never wrestled before can look that good with a couple of weeks training. And does it not make it look to the audience at home that anybody could do this?
If you're asking, then probably. Like, if that question comes up to you, and you have to ask, like, does this mean anybody can do it? Or is this guy somebody who's, from what I understand, on social media, has had some professional fights, is an athlete? It's a little bit less of a stretch, I think, than other celebrities who get in the ring.
Like Johnny Knoxville.
A little bit less of a, what's that?
Like Johnny Knoxville. He proved that not anyone could do this.
We'll get to that on night 2, James. So like, I don't know. There's also like plenty of talent that pays money to go learn how to play dress up and fall down at a wrestling school. And anybody can do this. Anybody. They can't do it on the level that Logan Paul did it. He did fantastic. you know? And like, that's one thing I'll say. By the way, it's a little side note. This match went to the floor. Like, for all these matches, what's your definition of a good match?
Depends what you're trying to accomplish with the match.
Okay.
So, I mean, are you trying to entertain the crowd? Are you trying to feature one person more than another? I don't know.
It depends on the business of the match, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So what you're trying to accomplish and the desired reaction.
Mm-hmm.
A smaller filter, just at face value for me, is because I don't like a lot of wrestling. It's not my cup of tea. It's not what I enjoy. However, doesn't matter. I don't need to. I look at the crowd, and on 1, 2, 3, or tap out or finish, the final bell rings. If the people are standing up and angry, or if the people are standing up and happy, right? That's a good match. I don't care what happened before that. So all these matches at WrestleMania, by and large, really good fucking matches. 70,000 people standing up going crazy. Good matches. So this was a really good match. I have like no idea why this guy was so good, so fast, and all these other questions. Rey Mysterio is as good as anybody there's ever been. And Dominic, you know, once he gets older and matures a bit, he's a talent, you know. And Miz, he's been successful and injury free for 20 years and at a very high level. So yeah, it had all the ingredients to be good. And I don't understand. I thought the finish was well done. I thought it was a really good finish and came out. It was really clever. But then the aftermath, I did not understand.
No. So The Miz attacks Logan Paul. I actually wrote this down specifically, is that he does the skull-crushing finale.
It is.
Logan Paul gets up after about 5 seconds and starts, sitting up and being angry with The Miz. And the only other thing I was thinking was Miz was in the entrance and blowing kisses to Logan Paul because maybe there might be a match between them at a later date, while Rey Mysterio, who is the 2K22 computer game cover star, slinks off in the background, sort of a beaten man, and an afterthought in the match.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of looking at that, what's your takeaway?
The takeaway is at this point, I thought it was the best match on the card. I thought Logan Paul did really good. Other than that, it made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I agree with you. But people enjoyed it. It's fantastic. I have no idea what they're working toward, like as far as Miz and Logan Paul.
Yeah, if it's a one and done, then it makes no sense. If you're gonna make this a series of matches, then yeah, makes sense. But the thing is, who's the good guy in this situation? Because no one likes Miz unless they're fighting, unless he's attacking Logan Paul. Because nobody could possibly like him.
It can be said for anything that if it's going to lead to doing more business, then it's a good idea. And so yeah, if Miz and Logan Paul follow up on this and leads to more business, great. I'm talking about, I don't know if that's the best way to do whatever they're trying to do because I don't know where they're going. And a lot of times they might not know where they are going either because a lot of it has to do with how the crowd's taking to it, how it's getting over, how it's not getting over, if there's injuries, if there's problems between the talent, if any number of issues that can affect a storyline or whatever. But higher the card you go, and a lot of times with WrestleMania, it's pretty figured in. It's pretty important to get to that, because there's big money involved. Logan Paul and The Miz against Mysterio, there's a lot of money in that match. So
I will move on to the before we move on to the next match, Stephanie McMahon comes out. I think one of the commentators say it wouldn't be a WrestleMania without Stephanie McMahon, which I thought was a bit of an odd line because I didn't really sort of consider her the embodiment of WrestleMania.
Right. I think why she was there was important.
Right. she was introducing Gable Steveson, who was also reintroduced the night after at night 2 as well. But what was why was it important she was there?
Well, I ask you this. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest at this time, two-time NCAA heavyweight champion, 2020 gold medalist, I believe, or 22 gold medalist. I'm not up on my Olympics. Gable Steveson. Thanks, Kyla Braxton. I'm Gable Steveson, right? Or, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Branding Officer of the WWE, Stephanie McMahon, right? And then you get the music and you go, holy shit, it's Steph. Okay. I don't care what the context is. If Steph comes out with her music and she's got a microphone, she's probably got something I want to hear. Like I'm probably going to listen. So it's important because if she's there, it's important. It's important enough to have Stephanie McMahon grab a microphone and say, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you the newest WWE superstar, two-time national champion, gold medalist, the greatest collegiate wrestler of all time, Gable Steveson, and WWE superstar, Gable Steveson. Gable Steveson doesn't have to say shit, right? So it's the rub. You're not going to get Kyla Braxton to introduce Gable Steveson at WrestleMania. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
you might not equate Stephanie, like, why is Steph here? But it's because they have big plans for Mr. Steveson. And he was actually somebody that I stayed away from trying to obtain knowledge about anything or acquiring it. And so I thought, maybe Steveson would be somebody that I would send in for the Seth Rollins spot later on in the night, without introducing him first and all that, and just do a really quick, like, surprise, couple things. But it's obvious the young man needs a lot of time in NXT and needs to learn. And my second choice, and this is probably a discussion for the Cody and Seth match, but be Braun Breaker. I thought they'd get him out of NXT and just get him over right away with a couple moves and a Steiner recliner, and Seth taps out, and it'd be a big pop and a big moment and get the kid over and whatnot. But would that bring us to our next match?
Before it does, I thought this might be a nice time to bring up, while you were a WWE producer between, are we talking 2013 to 2016, 17, around that time?
Yeah, 16.
Yeah. Stephanie McMahon, what were her roles? How much interaction would you have with it on a weekly basis, especially on the the big productions, Raw, SmackDown, etc.?
Wow. It'd be easier to say, like, Stephanie didn't work in catering, and she wasn't a seamstress. Outside of that, she might have had her hand in everything. Like, it'd be easier for me to tell you. She wasn't she didn't do security, but man, she's just busy as could be. And I mean, everything. In production meetings, I used to sit right behind her. She had a chair right in front of me. And so she'd be in on creative all day, she'd be on the bus with her and Hunter, and she'd be in creative all day. She was a talent, like when I was on air talent in the Authority, working with her. Before I became on-air talent with the Authority, being her producer for, say, like her program with Brie Bella in 2014, which culminated in a match at SummerSlam. Like, I had all of that. So working with her, like, as a producer and as a co-talent, she's just a chief branding officer. She's, Make-A-Wish, was talking to some community outreach, appearing on any number of media outlets, whether it's the Today Show, or whether it's Rolling Stone magazine, or whether it's the local elementary school, or whatever. Like, she's just, she's invaluable at that place.
Yeah, I always get the feeling that, as you say, she's invaluable, and that a lot of maybe unfair criticism is leveled against her and Triple H, saying, well, it's just nepotism, that's why they're where they are. But no, as far as I can tell, they absolutely earn every penny they earn because they work 150 hours a week, keeping that place running.
I love it anytime somebody says, a lot of people say it's nepotism. So then I wonder, like, okay, who are a lot of people? And you know what? Oh, fuck it, man. They're right. A lot of people are right, man. It's just nepotism.
Yeah.
The only reason here, why Stephanie McMahon introduced Gable Steveson? Because her last name is McMahon. Of course she gets to go to WrestleMania. Why would they use Stephanie McMahon? Those people are right. It's nepotism. It changed my thinking. I didn't know a lot of people were saying that. I thought only like maybe a few people or several. I didn't know a lot of people said nepotism. And I didn't know it was criticism either.
Yes, let me rephrase the question then. Is that obviously it's nepotism that she was hired, of course, but what I'm saying is that she absolutely earns her keep, I suppose, is how would best describe it. Because obviously she was hired because she's Vince's daughter.
Well, I have it on good authority that Vince might have other kinfolk and other family like on this earth than like his children and his wife. So it's not like, I mean, Vince has other family members. So if it was nepotism, I think they would just get a job with WWE as well. And I genuinely think that if Stephanie showed no aptitude or no interest in this at all, then she probably wouldn't be involved in it. If it didn't make her incredibly happy, and if she wasn't like one of the best talent I've ever worked with, and I've worked with them all, and one of the smartest, most clever people I know. Like, she's yeah. So you have to understand, it's good that I'm sitting down because I had no idea that it was only nepotism. Thank you, James.
Yeah, anytime. Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair. I've got a controversial opinion on this, but I will ask you first. I didn't like it. Hey, the fans loved it. I didn't like it at all.
People loved the finish.
Yeah, people loved it, but I watched the match and I was just like, oh, let it end, man.
Yeah, man. I think they were really, really hot at the beginning of the match. People were like, they were ready for it. And about 2 minutes in, I think like 2:30 maybe, I clocked it out. It's like just the crowd was dead, just dead. One thing about the previous match, a side note, and about this match too, this match went to the floor. I'm just going to point that out.
Mm-hmm.
And I have in my notes that these talent let a wrestling match get in the way of a good story, but it wasn't that good of a wrestling match. So I saw like a lot of big bumps and a lot of back and forth, a lot of not necessarily selling to what like my cup of tea. But then again, it doesn't matter because the people love the finish. They came unglued for that. I don't know. The referee also was ignored on all counts. I know they did like a lot of near falls and a lot of they go to cover and it's this tremendous maneuver, stupendous almost. And it's 1, 2, and then not today. And then there's just this look of like just disbelief. Now, in sport, I think like usually if the referee makes a call, you would look to the referee because you'd want to hear what the referee had to say and know what his call was or was not, or her call was or was not. There's none of that. The referee was completely ignored on all counts. Like, I mentioned this match went to the floor.
You did, yeah.
Okay. So sometimes, I don't know what this is, but like there'll be talent on the floor and then there'll be a maneuver oftentimes stupendous in nature, where both talents will bump and then be narcoleptic on the floor, sometimes after a dive, sometimes after a stupendous maneuver. When they do that, I have no explanation for this. Inexplicably, the ref will start counting over from one. And so I just don't understand what any of that is. It takes me out of it. And a lot of like these things I bring up are because I'm really into the suspension of disbelief. I think that's what it's all about. I don't think you can make the people think that it's real. I think that's a huge ask. I think you can make them forget that it's not. And as long as you do that, you're telling a story, you're in a movie, you're watching it, you're enjoying it. You're not thinking about, oh, that was a stunt man, or why did they do that? Or, oh, that looked like they cooperated, or, oh, that one missed, or anything that would take you out of being in there. And one way I can tell about me getting taken out of it is when I have to ask a question. And so the suspension of disbelief becomes the reinstatement of disbelief. So then my disbelief is reinstated. I wonder, why did the referee start the count over? Right? Why is that move important to her now, but it wasn't before? And just a lot of things that were going on that kind of took me out.
Yeah, the thing that I really don't like is when people who clearly can't do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu try and insert Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu into matches. And there was an armbar that I swear you could have parked a bus in the gap, which would, just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. If you're going to do it, please have done it in real life and studied it and know what it's supposed to look like and know where there shouldn't be gaps and where the arms should be and how to do a triangle properly. Was this the one with the triangle? I think this might have been the one with the triangle.
So why is that important?
Because of my suspension of disbelief, it takes me out of the match.
Correct. So it goes from looking like competition to cooperation.
Yes. Not even cooperation. It just takes me to the thing where it sort of makes me think, you don't really know how to fight. And yet you're fighting for a world championship, but yet you don't know how to do an armbar.
Wouldn't the person who is subject to the armbar also be in question? And therefore cooperating?
Yes, when they're clearly not in pain, yet looking like they are in pain.
Yeah. So generally, when a hold is finished and completed, there's no gaps and you've cinched it up and everything is barred and tight and nice and locked in, that should be a tap within seconds. So when you see these holds that are actually finished, people are struggling for 20 seconds and 30 seconds and everything. It takes me right out of it. Getting there, though, is where the struggle could be. You see? So, like, if they're struggling back and forth and they can't quite get it, and then they start elbowing, they start weakening a different body part to open up and find an opening to get to it, that struggle can last all day. But then once it's locked in, it's kind of like 6 seconds or 6 months. Tap, get out of it, or surgery, because you're fucked at that point, right? It's also like in a fight, it's like, go ahead and tap on that, because if you know you're fucked, and you don't want to be out 6 months. So, deal with your ego later. When you're getting choked or put to sleep, you wouldn't tap, because it's not you. If you go to sleep, somebody will stop the fight. But to tap to prevent going to sleep when there's still a chance for something doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Then again, a lot of it doesn't. So that suspension of disbelief, you're riding that line because people want to get lost in it. People don't want to worry about critiquing something. They want to be, I think, don't you as a wrestling fan enjoy it much more? As much as you might enjoy it with the trained eye and critiquing something, don't you enjoy it where something just blows you away and you can't wait to the next thing?
I enjoy it most when I don't feel the need to stop to write notes. If I'm enjoying it enough where I forget to write notes, then that's a good match. If you know what I mean. But this is a very specific instance for this WrestleMania, because I don't write notes for wrestling matches, any other time. But I did find during the main event of night 2, actually with the Austin one as well, I stopped writing notes because I was enjoying what I was seeing on the TV.
Oh. That's good.
Yeah, it's sort of a strange and very specific litmus test, but that's the one I sort of found myself with. We'll move on then. Seth Rollins versus mystery opponent. And before you comment, I know you've got some comments on this one. We had a promo package beforehand. One thing WrestleMania did very well, I believe, is introducing via quite long vignettes or VTRs or however you describe them beforehand to say why they're fighting. And I felt fully, up to date with why they were fighting, or why Seth was at WrestleMania and we didn't know who the opponent was. And he turns up to Vince McMahon's office. He's wearing his mum's curtains, I think, for a suit. And then Seth comes down, and then he's wearing his mum's rug. He looked like Sully from Monsters, Inc. with that like giant green thing that he was wearing.
I've described him as the Frank Zappa of sports entertainment.
Yeah, he has.
He's absolutely brilliant, but he's out there.
Yeah. Oh, he was wearing a blouse as well for a top, which was also quite interesting, quite lacy.
As you do, just as you would name your sword after your mother.
What is Seth Rollins' character? What is it? Because I didn't understand what he was meant.
What is the quality of the man's character? He's honest. He's hardworking.
No, I'd more say for his gimmick. How would you describe his gimmick in 3 words? Because I know people kept referring to him Seth freaking Rollins, but I don't know what he's all about.
That shit crazy. 3 words. I'm not good at that, James.
That was pretty good. So is he just a crazy man?
They call him a visionary. I listen to the announcers. They call him a visionary. So, I mean, he had looked like a high school choir or, something like that, singing him into the, he's crazy, man. He's like, that's the only way I could describe him, is like, he's like Frank Zappa to the WWE. He's just out there. He doesn't wear the same thing twice. He's just surreal. I'm not really sure because I took some time away, like, a couple years. So I haven't been up on things, which is also, if I'm watching this and Seth's in the ring and we've seen the video package, right? And then we see the Tron and the graphics and we see American Nightmare. What's American Nightmare?
It's a play off the American Dream. That's all I know.
Right. So what I'm saying is, like, to first-time viewers, and there might be some people who are watching WrestleMania who don't turn into the Turner Sports Networks or the Turner Broadcast, right? So they might not be up on what the American Nightmare is. And it might be people who aren't familiar with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, who watch it. And okay, if he is American Dream's son, and we've put together that he's the American Nightmare, so what? Like, tell us more about it. They don't. So I don't know. I was really interested to see what they were going to do in this match.
Well, I think because WWE's habits of never referencing other companies or very rarely referencing each other's, another company, is that they won't mention Japan. They won't mention Ring of Honor now that Tony Khan's bought it. They won't mention AEW for obvious reasons. So all they said was, he's been away for 6 years. And if you're a fan beforehand, you'll have only known him as Stardust for several years as well. So the last time Cody Rhodes was on WWE TV as himself, or a version of himself, was what, 8 years ago or 9 years ago or something?
Probably about 8 years ago, yeah, I'd say. So, there's a big ovation because at WrestleMania, obviously, there's going to be more loyal fans, and you're going to have your more more than casual fans, more formal fans, I should say. I won't say sophisticated or smart, but I'll say more formal, and so they'll know who Cody is. Don't know why he's Vince's pick right off the bat. I don't know why, maybe some of that could have been explained and to help the story a little bit. This is Cody Rhodes. Why did Vince McMahon choose Cody Rhodes to compete against Seth Rollins at WrestleMania? Don't know. Do you?
No, it wasn't explained. I will ask this, though. Is, as far as a wrestler is concerned, not a promoter or a booker or anything, but as a wrestler, is Cody Rhodes currently the smartest wrestler out there? Because he's left places several times at the exact right time to maximize his potential elsewhere.
You're asking me, okay, if I understand this correctly, is Cody Rhodes the smartest wrestler out there because he's left places at the exact right time?
Yes, maybe.
I think maybe Roman Reigns is the smartest because he decided to choose to stay. He decided to go to the very top spot and then just stay. Like the whole time Cody was leaving places, Roman just stayed because he got to the place first. So maybe Roman's the smartest.
Or is Brock, because he works less dates and earns more money.
Brock Lesnar is smart. Roman Reigns is smart. Cody Rhodes leaves a lot of places. So I don't know if it's smart because I'm so damn over and I'm drawing so much money that these people refuse to make me happy and give me what I'm worth. So I'm going to leave and go somewhere else and also not draw money. And then also leave that place to go somewhere else and convince them that I'm going to draw them money. And then I'm going to not draw money. But I'm going to leave before I can get figured out. And then I'll go somewhere else. Yeah, probably smart. Yeah, Cody's smart. Yeah, he makes a lot of money and he's got people thinking he's worth it, and paying him for it. So you got to be smart. I'm not saying that he's not worth it. Of course he's worth it. They're paying him. So he's worth it. So
when you were doing producing and he was doing the Stardust thing, was there any... Who would come to you? Let's say, would Cody ever come to you and just say, man, I really hate this Stardust character. I'd love to get back to Cody. Or, did he ever talk to you about this kind of thing where he just wanted to be himself?
Cody, with Stardust, Cody, as with anything, Cody threw himself 100% into it. With Stardust, there were one show I was a producer on overseas on a tour as an agent, and Cody had a signing in another town, and then because of traffic, it's just whatever travel situation was, he wasn't on the bus to get to the show, and so we're waiting on him from a second hired car, and they end up having to go down the Autobahn in Germany to get to the town, at which time, the only time Cody had any time to do this, had to apply all of his Stardust makeup while he was riding on the Autobahn, because he chose to do something that was, and I forget what it was, but it was something that like Cody was doing for the company, like an appearance or some media or something like that. And then putting everything on and making it in time and go and Cody never complained about the Stardust gimmick. He tried to make it work. He tried everything he could. He applied himself. He did. Yeah. And he didn't complain. He took to it like Dream took to the polka dots. Yeah.
As far as the match goes, any further thoughts on Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes? Was it your favorite match of the night?
I don't know if it was my favorite. I don't know who else could have got that match out of Cody. And that's not knocking Cody. that's saying having a 25-minute match in front of 75,000 people, where the people are completely invested in it. Like, just, I'm speaking to the quality of Seth Rollins as a performer. There's nobody better. There might be people as good, but there's nobody better, bell to bell, getting somebody or something over just with pure performance. And that set the bar extremely high for Cody's return. I'll say that. And the finish with the 2 crossroads and then into the flip flop and fly into the 3rd crossroads. Great. Crowd loved it. I don't know that 25 minutes is the thing to do. It sets the bar so high. Number one, when you make this match, Seth Rollins isn't going over. You don't announce a mystery opponent and then have a mystery opponent show up as a surprise and then lose. You don't do that. Mm-hmm. Just as if there's a substitution or due to circumstances beyond our controls, X, Y, and Z is unable to, be here tonight, card subject to change. In his place, we have so-and-so. So-and-so is going over. Because you always have to do a replacement or a substitution that either equals or succeeds what the crowd was promised in them. And the way you do that is by having the substitution be a difference maker. There's no way Seth Rollins could have prepared for Cody Rhodes. They had no idea who his opponent was. So all these other matches are talking about, we scout each other, we know each other, we're trying to bring the best out in each other, everything like that. Seth Rollins has no game plan. Cody Rhodes knows from I don't know how long that he's wrestling Seth Rollins. So during the match, it would seem to be that Seth would have less counters to Cody's offense than Cody would have to Seth. Cody would have an answer to all of Seth, and Seth would be extremely frustrated because Cody has him scouted. And Cody's so smart, and Cody's second generation, this, that, and the other. Seth would have to resort to cheating or shortcuts. I don't know, again, that I'd make the match this long because Seth didn't know his opponent was. If he was just completely surprised, went after Cody at the bell, and Cody came out of it, hit 2 crossroads, a flip-flop and fly, and a 3rd one, and the crowd just shit themselves, I think you might have done better for Cody. And then from there, you can always go back to having and build up to a 25-minute match somewhere else. But keep this up, because I know Seth Rollins could have a 25-minute match on Raw or SmackDown or wherever any night at any given moment, any amount of time notice. I think this was a big production, and with the pyro and the entrance and the match and the time and the opponent and the result, they're expecting big things out of Cody.
Well, for the amount they're reportedly paying him, I know it's at least 7 figures, hopefully. I just want to pick up on something you said before. Seth, there's no one better than him. There is people as good, but there's no one better than Seth Rollins. Now, to my very much untrained eye, I sort of think every match is 50-50 and, everybody's as good as everybody else if you have a great match. I mean, I'm probably not explaining this right. But why, even just watching this one match, how can you tell that Seth is a better performer than Cody? What did Seth do better than Cody, and why is it so obvious to you, who has a trained eye, you can see that Seth is the more premier performer?
I don't have the match in front of me right now or examples off the top of my head, but I will ask you this. What did you think of that match quality?
I don't know. I remember thinking it was quite long. I remember thinking that the audience loved it, and therefore it was definitely a big success. They were my 2 big takeaways.
Okay. And did you see the quality of the action in the ring?
Yes, very high quality, and I also thought quite a lot of WrestleMania kickouts. I wrote them all down. If you were interested, I'll just read them out to you. Seth kicked out of Crossroads. Cody kicks out of reverse suplex from the top into Shattered Dreams. Pedigree, WrestleMania kick out 3. Pedigree teases into top rope ace crusher by Cody. WrestleMania kick out 4. Pedigree on Cody.
Wow. It's great.
Thank you.
It's great that you took notes.
Yeah.
There's never a reason a prostitute finishes. But then again, that's what the product is now. So Well, I'm asking you about the quality of the match and what you thought. I ask you this. Have you seen Seth Rollins have matches with similar quality on a similar stage?
Yes.
Okay. Have you seen Cody Rhodes do same?
At that level, no.
Okay. Have you seen Seth Rollins have different opponents and do same?
Yes.
Have you seen Cody Rhodes at this level? You said no.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Okay, so
well, I was just going to ask, from this one match, with no other examples, can you tell who the better performer is?
I could guess. And those are things like timing and just experience, really. And I'd say just awareness that you're on TV and it is a production. And if you hit a top rope reverse suplex, shattered dreams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kick out of that, you cover with urgency. And then it looks like 1, 2, and a near fall or a believable near fall is something that if the ref's hand came down and counted 3, you'd be like, oh, that was a finish. That was a good finish. So pedigree, after the crossroads, after the stomp, whatever. Once you hit your main move, what people are accustomed to seeing you win with, and there's a kick out or a non-finish, then they'll bite on anything because anything is fair game at that point once they've been past that level, right? So what I'm getting at as far as who's better than who, and to my eye, it just be like, who do I need to talk to less about what's important? So after a big move like a pedigree, say, for example, 1, 2, there's the kick out. Both guys are down. Right there, as a agent or producer in this case, I would tell the referee and tell the truck, I would make sure like we're going to go to a replay. I'd tell the referee, guys, we're in replay. So the referee tells the talent, guys, we're in replay. They're going to lay out. Here comes the replay. We're going to show the pedigree and the 1, 2, and then kick out. And we're going to come out of replay. And then I'm going to tell the ref, okay, we're out in 3, 2, back live. Referee's going to tell the talent, we're live. Talent's going to start moving now because they don't want the people to watch picture in picture of a replay and then something that's live action. So we'll go back to the live action. Now, when somebody has good timing and good instincts in that regard, or just good experience because they've learned, and it's something that's really hard to teach. You have to learn it from experience. But that feel of the timing of like, where are the cameras? Where are they going to do a 2-shot of us? Where are they going to do a single shot of us? Where are they going to go wide? So in a match like that, when Cody's making his entrance, Seth is waiting, and you hold something, an expression, because you know there's umpteen cameras there, but you know the guys on the floor, there's 3 of them, right? You know they're going to be coming to you and from you. So you want to give them enough to play with. And so like when I'm talking about being more experienced, it's things like that. Things like where you don't rush and you don't fuck up the TV because you're just doing what you think you should do or like what you think is good or getting flustered. And so like that, those are things that I would look for. And things like the hesitation that some guys have or just how sure they are of themselves as they're going into something. For example, I can think of one thing where it was almost like a power bomb that where Cody, for some reason, either timing or whatever, ended up sandbagging Seth. And Seth is such a strong motherfucker that he picked up dead ass Cody and barricade bombing him, basically. And things like that to where, you know, like, okay, well, do we start? There was another thing in the ring where they went for a double bridge, but Cody was likely too blown up or just not ready. And they kind of fumble fucked on the ground for a second. Just the timing of things, basically, as they incorporate with TV and the presentation and the production, would let me know how experienced they are or how green they are. And how good they are at each, you know. And a lot of it's just, are you doing things because you think they're good, or are you doing things because the audience will enjoy it? So there's a bit of that too.
Yeah. We'll move on to excuse me, the last couple of matches.
Also, James, before you move on,
yes,
Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes is a footnote. The match went to the floor.
How many matches went to the floor out of 5 so far?
Well, I'd have to go back and check my notes, but as we talk about, I'm sure.
Right, we'll assume.
And to answer your question, every match.
Every match, very good. 5 out of 5 so far, excellent. Hall of Fame inductees turn up. Scott Steiner looked like Colonel Sanders in the suit. I found. Don't know why. I just never really. He's got the same beard. I hadn't really sort of put that together. Undertaker gets the big entrance. We'll move on. Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey. In my opinion, an unpopular opinion, this was definitely the better of the 2 women's title matches. Even though it was scrappy, the moves look far more convincing. And it doesn't have to look super smooth to make it look better. Sometimes scrappiness is better.
Yeah, I'd like to just take a moment and just maybe reiterate that you think Scott Steiner looks like Colonel Sanders. I think we should just make that known. And not just for this episode. I think going forward, if we just say, this is James, you think Scott Steiner looks like Colonel Sanders? Because I think that's a controversial take.
It could be, but I mean, if you're gonna dye your beard white and then wear a suit, then comparisons are inevitably going to be made.
From afar.
Yeah, from afar. Also, I wasn't wearing my glasses when I was watching this, so I mean, it was very much a squinted view of things.
So this match, this video package, and the entrances, man, this is big time. It feels like important, and Charlotte Flair and Ronda both. It's important to them. It's just it feels bigger than all the rest. They take their time. They're telling a story. So again, it's like, what's the story? A good story has the people on their feet the entire time and biting on everything, just emotionally connected. A wrestling match, just spots or movement or whatever, it doesn't get over, And I think with this match, I think maybe a bit ambitious as far as the content. I think, the finish and everything came off good. This is a case where, just like the match previous, everything they did in the match previous, what you're asking about as far as Seth and his maturity and timing and just what we talked about, this match was the opposite. You see all these maneuvers and all these near falls and all these movements, and they go to a replay. And before they're even to the matter of what the replay is about, the talent is moving in the ring. And they have to get out of the replay. They have to stay in the replay, and then you'll miss what's going on now. And if you do that, then you're going to have to replay what's going on now, but then you're going to miss what's next. Then you have to replay that, and they just ended up chasing their own tail with a lot of it. And it's very hard to watch. And I'm a big proponent in big match situations like this for the title that you would replay. You would replay the big moments, right, and have that build. But not in every title match. And not every title match is the biggest WrestleMania main event of all time, right? And not everyone needs it. And a lot of times, like on Raw or in pay-per-view, like I'd be on the headset and you'd hear Kevin Dunn saying, something would happen, that big bump, boom, something significant in the match, heat spot. Something that led to a comeback, some change in momentum for one character or another. Kevin would be on the headset and go, okay, you hear him say, okay, that's your first replay. Meaning, once the 1, 2, 3 happens, and we get the talent's handover, and up by the referee will say, okay, we're going to replays. Then you would package 2 or 3 replays together and say, well, here's how we got to it. In the beginning, it was all X, Y, and Z, but then ABC made the comeback, and here's what led to the XYZ finish and whatever. And then you come out of replay and you tell the talent we're out of replay. So then by then the talent's either up the stage or he's on the second rope with the title or whatever the thing is, right? But that's the production side of it, and those are all the replays. And
if I interrupt you briefly, there's a phrase that comes to my mind, is the music in between the notes. Are you saying that there was something, there wasn't breathing space, is what it sounds like you're saying?
Correct. And I think especially, and it's just my experience and my cup of tea, is a situation like WrestleMania, the crowd heat is just amazing. And it's unlike anything else all year long. And each WrestleMania is different than the one previous and next. So you had a very special environment. The announcers are so important to what you do, and getting things over. And knowing why Vince McMahon feeds the announcers lines is because he feeds the announcers lines because it's what he wants the people viewing and consuming his product to know about his product that they're consuming, or at least what he wants them to think of it. So the announcers, something like with lesser promotions or what have you, that's one critique I have to the announcers is, hey, it's not fucking radio. Like, we can see the shit, right? And so I don't need like a descriptor of every single movement or what it's called or how many times I hit this 3 years ago on somebody I'm not wrestling now in Japan, a match that has nothing to do with anything we're talking about now, and just all this fucking content of Wrestle Nerd and Wrestle Geek just talking for the sake of talking. There's a thing called laying out. And you tell the announcers to lay out, it'll get you where you can hear the glass break and hear 75,000 people simultaneously shit their pants, right? And then you can enjoy that. And you don't need to go, oh, it's Steve Austin's music. Here comes Steve Austin. You think? And even if we don't know this up front, like, we can deduce it once we see Steve and read that it says Austin 316 on the screen. Like, for me, the announcers talk too fucking much, because there's also the everything you want to hear from the contact and the guys talking shit to each other. And I'm sorry, should I have sold that? And like what the announcers are talking over all the time, they're not doing talent favor. And that's not a knock against the announcers. It's just, yeah, a bit much.
I would like to bring up that the one time that the announcers did not talk in night one is when Cody Rhodes made his entrance. It was complete silence from the commentators for like a minute and a half, where maybe, not to speak for you, this might be a good time to tell the audience, oh my God, it's Cody Rhodes, son of a plumber, etc.
Exactly. So what that leads me to believe, or maybe think, is that they really don't know what to say. It's just like, if people know who Cody is, then they know. And if they don't, they'll get to know by whatever they see him do with Seth freaking Rollins. And if he goes 24 minutes with Seth freaking Rollins, and it's that competitive, and it's that fucking good, and the people are going that crazy on the finish, then we'll see on Monday. We'll give him a microphone on Monday. But I agree with you. Like, yeah, entrances, let it play out. You know, a lot of the appeal, what you have when you go to a show, is that experience. You don't have announcers telling you what to think and giving you all this backstory and everything else. You're vibing with the live audience you're with, right? And that's why I like a lot of things where you see, by the way, this Ronda and Charlotte match did go to the floor, if I haven't mentioned that. But you have matches that will go over the barricade and out into the crowd, or maybe like backstage or up in the concourse or other places and kind of off campus. And that's not good for the live crowd. You have no idea what somebody goes through to get to a wrestling show and to get their kids there and pick up extra time at work, or fight through traffic, or get accommodations made, anything. So they're there, and then you take a match that they paid to see, and you take it out of a ring that they're sitting pointed toward, and take it backstage or take it somewhere else in the building. And now the people have to stare up at a TV screen that's way further away than the one that's in their living room when they're sitting looking at it. Right. Mm-hmm. So like, I don't know what your fucking question was, James. But...
Well, I'll bring up something completely different. When I was, I went to UFC in London, like 2007, and we weren't that far away from the ring, or the cage, but I still watched the screen the entire way through. I had my glasses on and everything, and cage fighting's different because, I mean, I don't know what my point is really, but, you know, I think anyone who's not in the first 5 rows ends up looking at the screen all the way through anyway, or, you know, at least, you know, anything beyond the first ground floor or first tier, most people just end up watching the screen anyway.
So did that encourage you to go to the next UFC?
No, I never went to another one. No.
Okay. So it's a better time to sit at home watching the TV where you can see something that's this small, because you can knock a man out from that far away. But in professional wrestling or sports entertainment, you know, draw back so everybody can see it. And then this guy's going to sell instead of just going out and crumbling. So, yeah, like you would have to do that. And it would encourage you to come if you had a good show. So it drives people away when you don't take the live audience into account. And I think that's what was missing from Cody's entrance and a lot of other people's entrances, and maybe was an effect for Cody's entrance because the people at home could just listen to the crowd going nuts for this guy. So maybe I don't need to know his history all that much. This crowd's going crazy. Maybe I'm just going to watch and find out, why are they going so crazy for him? You know, and by the end of the match, it made a lot of sense. Like, the people loved that shit. It was an epic match. It was memorable.
Just briefly before we go on to the main event, Charlotte Ronda Rousey. Something I have heard online, well, I'd say online, I think Dave Meltzer wrote it, is that, because I don't watch weekly, you don't watch weekly. He said, for what it's worth, that people were very much interested in this WrestleMania match when they first announced it, and then throughout the weeks, people got less interested. I don't know if it's because of their interviews or because of their personalities, but do you think it could have been, other than the match itself, that could be a reason why the audience just wasn't with it or not invested as they could have been?
No. I don't think, when you say for what it's worth, it in that situation would be Dave Meltzer saying that a lot of people have lost interest in this program.
No, it was just him saying he'd lost interest.
Dave had lost interest in it?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that Dave losing interest in the match had anything to do with the audience being a little fatigued at that point. I was fortunate enough to get the news from Dave Meltzer that AJ Styles and the next night was cut due to a pyrotechnic accident on his entrance. When AJ appeared, AJ was marked up and was bleeding.
That wasn't the reason.
It was not the reason. It turns out that AJ just walked right into the set, which is fine. They're not used to that set. It's a big set. He might not have done rehearsals for his entrance. Whatever. He didn't mean to. It's not like it fucking didn't piss him off, you know? So hold on. Yeah, okay. Stephanie McMahon is only there because of nepotism. And Dave Meltzer had lost interest in Charlotte and Ronda's program, thus causing an exhausted crowd. And AJ Styles actually got cut open by pyro and not the set, because Dave wrote it. I'm not going with the evidence that I've seen. I think the crowd was exhausted.
Yeah, I think that's probably
at that point. And when they've seen near fall after near fall after near fall after near fall, when they've seen every single match, I don't know if I mentioned this, go to the floor for very little consequence. Like whatever happened on the floor was not the finish in most of these matches. So if all of a sudden in match number 5 or 6 here, you're telling me that, oh, what happens on the floor will be of consequence. And if we hit a big maneuver that people are familiar with, it will be the finish. We are not prostituting our finishes here. So people are waiting for, oh, it's not going to end on a sunset flip. It's not going to end on a backslide. It's not going to end on a cradle. It's not going to end on a roll. We need to see the figure 8. We need to see the spear. We need to see Ronda's armbar. We need to see all this stuff before we can actually buy that something would be the finish to this match. So they're waiting, you know, and it's what I spoke to earlier about building the show and the totality of the show. If Shinsuke Nakamura is kicking out of an Uso super kick and a frog splash, you know, or a superfly splash in the very first match, then 40 near falls later, I'm not really buying it with Ronda and Charlotte. Or at least it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't help. We will move on to the main event then. The KO show, Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen, brings out Steve Austin. He denigrates Texas, of course, first, builds up a little excitement for Steve Austin's arrival. Before I ask you about this, have you ever produced another Steve Austin segment for one of these one-offs that you turn up for here and there?
No, I haven't. They were not necessarily commonplace when I was producing. Like Steve was not a full-time talent at all. And even when I was had my first kind of, you know, promotion with WWE as a talent back in 2005, Steve was already off the roster. So any interaction I had with Steve as a talent would be him being a guest referee on an overseas tour, and you know, the heels running out there and we all take stunners at the end of the night, or, you know, something like that. I didn't produce Steve in anything he'd done. He's been away more than he's been around.
Yeah, definitely. Steve Austin comes out 57 years old. I mean, the preamble, the talking, hit the spot with the fans, definitely. It's what they were waiting for all night. How surprised were you that not only did it go into a match rather than like a sort of brawl segment, but it ended up being quite a long match as well, like 13, 14 minutes. It was very surprising to me, and pleasantly surprising.
What's that?
It was very pleasantly surprising as well, because everybody loves Steve Austin.
Right. When you asked how surprised I was, I mean, I wasn't expecting or not expecting something. I was just kind of like seeing where they were going to go. With the video package beforehand, it didn't explain to me at all why Kevin Owens was so damn upset with Texas. Right? It seemed like the oddest thing just to get a KO show on, to have Steve Austin as a guest, you know? And it seemed like very, very exemplary of like United States independent wrestling from anywhere from like 25 to 15 to 10 to maybe years ago to 5 days ago, probably somewhere. But like where you have the heels go out and they'll run down the high school football coach and they'll talk about how stinky the town is and how stupid the people are and how ugly they are. And as soon as I can, I'm leaving this stinking town, you know. And then out comes a football coach and he says, well, you ain't leaving this town without your ass getting kicked. And then all the football players are there and all the fucking, they had a pep rally that week and all the townspeople are there because they want to see the football coach who the wrestlers have taught to throw one body slam and, you know, one punch. And now he's going to team up with Jerry the King Lawler against these two heels, and just is so easy and is so, you know what I mean? And that's why it's cheap heat, because nobody has to get color. Nobody has to take a bump. Nobody has to do anything like that. It's cheap heat. It's, and like, why in this global fucking phenomenon known as WrestleMania are we picking on the city of Dallas, Texas? It seems so small and so small-minded to do that. So I guess I was pleasantly surprised too when I knew finally that they were going to say Kevin was just baiting him to get there. Once he got there, he was going to challenge him, right? Because like the video package didn't explain at all why he's mad at Texas. They obviously spared an expense for the set of the KO show. I believe it was 2 easels and 2 office chairs. Well, I will say they did not spare 1 dime on Kevin's new wardrobe for Mania and his new gear. It's exceptional. He doesn't need it. After this, that guy's fucking made, even if he wasn't before, as if he wasn't before. But Kevin Owens, what a star, man. And to have Steve Austin do something like that, he's not going to do something he doesn't want to do. That was handpicked by Steve Austin. This angle was handpicked. This program was handpicked. This match, the execution, the payoff was handpicked. It was all Steve, and it was brilliant. And Steve, like, to know that he just got him down there into that ring to challenge him, knowing that Steve could not turn down a challenge in front of his hometown people after he said he'd come to Texas, come to WrestleMania. And he says, I had my first match in Dallas. I might have my last one. And just, I need a ref and everything. The people just buzzing. It's fantastic, man. I thought it was fantastic.
To pick on something else you said before, Kevin Owens, what a star. I mean, I say to the untrained eye, to somebody who doesn't know, he knows what he's doing and is very good at what he's doing. He's like, not exceptional height. He's not an exceptional build. But why is he such a star? How does he sort of overcome that and portray himself as such a big deal?
He connects with the people. There's little things that any talent can benefit from knowing. Like, if I don't believe what I'm saying to be true, even if you know it's not true, I don't need you to believe what I believe. And I don't need you to believe what I'm saying. What I need you to believe is that I believe what I'm saying. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Because if Kevin Owens, if you thought for 1 second he didn't believe what he was saying he believed, there'd be no point. You don't have to agree with him, but in large part, he tells the truth, which a good heel will do. And it can be 95% of the time he's telling the truth. He's got the right idea about things. But a heel is always justified in his actions. A good one. He can make justification for his actions. It can be based off of truth. It's just, it can be perverted. Just one little iota, right? And then it gets devious. And then just all the unsavory character traits of a person that you can identify with. Jealousy, frustration, anger, dishonesty, like unkindness, like just things like this that Kevin Owens will display because he will have these emotions. And that's what connects you with him. People don't know what a pop-up powerbomb feels like, but they know when somebody's fucking frustrated, and they know when he's an asshole, and they know when he's making them laugh, he knows when he's making them cry or angry or happy. Anybody can relate to that. Kevin Owens does a fantastic job at that. And another thing, a little thing, anytime I get this, credibility. Keeping my disbelief unreinstated and suspended. We have Kevin Owens in a position where Kevin Owens is doing whatever Kevin Owens is doing. I don't go, he doesn't quite look like he should be doing that. Doesn't even come into account. Anything Kevin Owens does, I never question. I never have to go, he'll go face to face with Vince McMahon in a promo years ago. Butt him.
Yeah.
Right? Hit that frog splash and cuss the storm on Vince McMahon. I didn't question a thing about that. When I used to produce him in NXT, when I used to work against him in Ring of Honor and his promotion in Canada, he's been good for a very, very long time, and he does not have that classic, look from a fan, but neither did Roddy Piper. And there's certain qualities. If it's not look, it's going to be promo and work. And Owens has enough of that to supplement any deficiency he might have in any other regard.
So we're saying the Johnny Valentine rule of I can't make you believe wrestling is real, but I can make you believe that I'm real.
I'd say Kevin subscribes to that. Kevin doesn't rub the people's faces in the fact that it's phony and that it's fake, you know.
With the match itself, is what Steve Austin could do. He obviously was not going to be the Steve Austin of the 1998 kind of thing, but it was still, the fans were loving it. They went to the floor, but then they also went into the audience, and then they went, as you said, up the concourse, up the ramp, and made a really big show, really enjoyable. Everybody really loved it. I mean, thoughts on the match first, and then I'll ask you a closing question. But thoughts on the match?
I thought it was excellent. And the reason is because the people were invested the entire time. They did the exact thing the talent wanted them to do when they wanted them to do it. Job done. When you say it wasn't the Steve Austin of 1998 or whatever the year was, would you want him to be? Well, yeah, sure. Because then if he was, sign that motherfucker. We got to put him. If it's Steve Austin 98, wait, this guy who just sold out 75,000 people for a talk show defending the city of Dallas and selling out tickets to a worldwide audience for it. Wait a minute. You know what? He might not have been the Steve Austin in 1998, but he didn't fucking need to be. That was incredible. It was great. I wouldn't be surprised if they got him to go do Saudi Arabia.
What, defend Saudi Arabia?
Defend Saudi Arabia's good goddamn name against Kevin Owens. I think it went Dallas, then Saudi Arabia with the order.
The good people of Riyadh are sick of it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, before I was going to mention a little cheeky thing with the Steve Austin defending Texas, and I was going to say, and here he is, Nevada's own Steve Austin.
Yeah. Well, Steve's smart. He knows when to leave places.
He does. And California as well, I think he's a resident of still. I don't know. The main question is, and you'll, I imagine, set me right on this, or maybe you'll agree with me, I don't know, is Steve Austin winning clean a reinforcement that the stars of yesteryear at nearly the age of 60 are still better than today's stars in the prime of their life?
Okay. Wow. I could add, man, I need more information. What is better?
The better wrestler, the better man, the bigger draw, the more popular person.
Well, I think it's a good decision to put Steve Austin over in that situation. I really do. And I don't think it would help Kevin Owens one bit if Kevin Owens beat Steve Austin in that match. And I don't think it hurts Kevin Owens one bit to lose to Steve Austin in that match at all. And you say, does it prove they're better? If you're talking about they are the 60-year-old stars of yesteryear, as numerous as they may be, no, not really. And when you say they, you immediately exclude somebody like Steve Austin, because Steve Austin is not a they. Steve Austin is a he. Steve Austin is a him. Steve Austin is a Steve Austin. So there's no comparison. If Steve Austin or The Rock or John Cena or anybody like that, Roman Reigns, there's nobody like that. I say anybody like that. So yeah, you count them on the hand. You want to do business with them. Imagine if Kevin Owens would have went over. What would that have done to anybody?
Secretly, I would have loved it, but maybe that's
you
just
would have loved it.
I would have thought, man, he's just vanquished Steve Austin. That's your new big star. I'm probably in the minority, but I knew Steve Austin would win, but I thought it'd be amazing if Kevin Owens would win.
So this brings us to a different topic. Wins and losses. Do they matter?
Now, I would say absolutely yes, because Roman Reigns hasn't lost in 2.5 years, and he's also their biggest star. Or not pinned or submitted.
Okay. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I heard wins and losses don't matter, my first question would be, all right, so let's have Roman do a job tonight. Let's have Cena slip on a banana peel and put this kid over with his finish.
I thought you were going to road dog me and tell me that I was full of shit then.
Road dog you?
Road Dogg very famously came out, said on Twitter to a fan asking a question, and he said that wins and losses do not matter. It's like, well, it's meant to be a sport, so surely wins and losses is everything.
Was Road Dogg an active member of the creative team at the time?
He was, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. He probably just come out of a building in like somewhere in Connecticut where people were telling him that wins and losses don't matter all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who apart from maybe Vince McMahon, who is the biggest pusher of the theory that wins and losses don't matter?
The biggest pusher of wins and losses don't matter?
Yeah. Who truly believes that?
Whoever was trying to tell whatever talent that he wasn't going over.
That is the best answer I think I could have possibly heard.
Yeah, it's true. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anybody who wanted to go over and was talking to somebody who thought it wasn't in their best interest to do a favor, hey, wins and losses don't matter.
There's always next week. Do you know what? I'm going to wrap up the podcast there. We've done a good amount of time, and we have delved into the psyche of Joey Mercury as
do us a favor
and a producer. Yes.
Muddle your way through the outro, same as you did the intro.
Okay. There you go. Thank you very much. We'll be back for episode 2. I don't know when it will be out, but it will be out. But for now, thank you very much from me, James. Joey Mercury, do you want to sign us off?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that wins and losses do not matter for you today.
Thank you very much.